A beautiful afternoon to you all, dear viewers. It's such a delight to have you stay with us on Galaxy Television. I am Layo Shobo, and you're welcome to today's edition of the Editors Forum. Good times and bad times will always come in life. Sometimes they coexist and other times they come one after the other. Sometimes they are induced by internal factors, some other times by external factors, and yet other times by both internal and external factors, and as the case we have in Nigeria of today. The giant of Africa is going through a lot, both internally and externally. What are the solutions? How do we go about this? Where do we go from here that we ensure we solve everything one after the other without having any chaos or busting into a state of anarchy, both internally and externally? And this we will be looking at with the front burner stories that came through the week on today's edition of Editors Forum. Once again, my name is Layo Shobo and you're welcome. And with me in the studio, I have a very professional in his field, as a veteran journalist, the president of the Guild of Public Affairs Analysts of Nigeria. He's the chairman, CEO, Oyose Media Concept, and I'm talking of no other person but Mr. Ayo Baji. Good afternoon and thank you for being here.
Thank you a lot. It's a great pleasure coming back here after some time.
Yeah.
It's been a while.
I mean, I felt that delight when we spoke over the phone. You were like, it's good to have Editors Forum back, and you're so excited to be here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for coming through. All right, so we'll delve straight into it. Now, first on the agenda today is the external crisis that Nigeria is sort of involved in as the giant of Africa, and that's Africa's most populous country, and also because the president of ECOWAS, head of state and government, is our own president too. So we can say this is also Nigeria's problem. All right, on the 26th of July, that was on Wednesday, Niger's presidency put out on social media platform called X, that was formerly known as Twitter, that members of the presidential guard tried to move against President Mohamed Bazoum in an apparent coup attempt, warning that the army was ready to attack them if they did not back down. Now, that statement said the president and his family were well after news agency quoted security sources as saying that the guards were holding Bazoum inside the presidential palace in the capital, Niamey. But a few hours after that story, we had a group of soldiers appeared on national television to announce that they had overthrown the government, and that is led by the Presidential Guard Commander General Abdurrahman Chiani. He proclaimed himself the leader of a new military junta. Now, this is the fifth military coup d'etat since Niger Republic gained independence from France in 1960, and it is the first since 2010. And now Nigeria, as I said earlier, the president of the ECOWAS head of state is our very own President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and the ECOWAS has met out sanctions against this. And it could be recalled that when he took the position, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu mentioned that coup d'etat will not be allowed going forward in West African bloc, in Africa as a whole. So the ECOWAS is making moves to salvage the situation, and one of the news on the list is military intervention. And as we have an update, the president, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, has written the Nigerian Senate seeking approval for military intervention in Niger. And there are so many reactions from different quarters. Now we're going to look at a reaction from the Nigerian Senate, the northern senators in the 10th National Assembly. Let's have that, and when we return, we'll go into discussion.
The northern senators also take cognizance of the effort of ECOWAS leaders under the able chairmanship of our dear President Bola Ahmed Tinubu in resolving the situation in Niger Republic. The emphasis, however, should be focused on political and diplomatic means to restore democratic governance in Niger Republic. We also take exception. We also take exception to use up the military force until all other avenues, as mentioned above, are exhausted. As a consequence, will be casualty among innocent citizens who go about their daily businesses. Besides, about 7 northern states are share border with Niger, namely Kebbi State, Sokoto State, Zamfara State, Katsina State, Jigawa State, Yobe, and Borno State, respectively. We are also aware of the situation of Mali, Burkina Faso, and Libya, which may affect the 7 northern states, because all these 3 states share border with the Niger Republic. If military force is used, there is serious implication for our country. If military force is used without using all the democratic or diplomatic channel in resolving the... As a Democrat and representative of the people, we are here by urging our colleagues, more especially from the other region, to observe due diligence in invoking Section 5, subsection 4, A and B, which gave the National Assembly power to approve the request, or more particular, Senate power to approve the request of Mr. President when we intend to participate or to join any foreign or to engage our military in foreign war. This is our position, and we are urging our colleagues and Nigerians to see reason on using democratic, political, and diplomatic way in reaching out to the military junta of Niger to resolve the issue. Let me re-emphasize that for almost 2 decades, Nigeria is battling insurgency, more especially in Borno, Yobe, and some northern states. And also concerned about the position of ECOWAS to use military force to...
We have it. I'd like us to start on this note.
Yeah.
What are the implications, first of all, of the coup in Niger on Nigeria, West Africa as a whole, Africa as a whole?
Thank you very much. Let me begin by talking about the issues that so many other people have not really focused on. And that has to do with what are the root causes of, that coup. Simply, the military junta there, did provide the fact that they were not too comfortable with France, especially its handling of the insecurity, challenge that they were facing. And of course, they also mentioned poor governance, and there were allegations of, some mineral resources like uranium and, gold being taken away from, from Niger and in favor of, or skewed in favor of France. So many people do not, focus on issues, what really led to it. But whatever be the case, I think that we have a dicey and delicate situation on our hands. One, coincidentally, and incidentally to our own President Bola Ahmed Tinubu happens to be the ECOWAS chairman. So, so with that playing out, we have to look at the implications of this. So far, the Arewa Consultative Forum, and then of course, as it was shown, the northern senators, they are vehemently against, any military intervention. Let me go back a little. You know that soon after the takeover of governors from, you know, the democratically elected President Mohamed Bazoum. What happened was that ECOWAS, as a group, you know, raised alarm and said, you are not going to take it because what they want is democratic principles, ethics to be, you know, sustained in the you know, African continent. So what you have is that the ECOWAS gave 7 days ultimatum. Yeah. The AU gave 2 weeks ultimatum. But, you know, going by the information and the in-depth analysis by some diplomats, including Professor Bolaji, you know, Akinyemi, said the ECOWAS made some fundamental mistakes. I mean that, for instance, when you give an ultimatum, within that period, you must ensure that there is enough period of time for dialogue, enough a period of time, you know, for diplomatic intervention. So, because of the dire consequences, a war is not a tea party. I used to tell people, as Herodotus did say, it is better to have peace than to have war. Because in peace, sons bury their fathers. In war, fathers bury their sons. So that one gives an implication of what really happens. You know, in war, of course, as James Madison said, there is folly. I mean, you have you know, criminality and wickedness of man coming up. I did write an article, you know, March 2022. It was titled "The Fool Called Man" and what wasteful wars. Tracing it back to the first.
I think I saw that. I have to take our time to read.
Yeah, the First World War, the Second World War. That time I did write it because it was in response to the war between Ukraine and you know, Russia. But well, it had gone off, and of course you see casualties, people, I mean children destroyed, you know, women, the vulnerable group, the aged, and all the rest. And at the end of the day, whether we like it or not, they will still come to the round table to talk. But what happens to the people that have fallen as voiceless victims to this crisis? So, and like that senator did, you know, mention, if you look at the northern states, I mean, that have boundaries with Niger Republic, I mean, if there is any crisis, what will happen? They become vulnerable to the, you know, attacks and all the rest. So, and my own take is that I think President Bola Ahmed Tinubu should, as much as possible, you know, even just in the next 48 hours, what we are saying, that, you know, sanctions and all the rest, the time limit will have come. You should exercise what we call circumspection, caution, because of the grave implication. And Nigeria, now that we have our economy is in the doldrum, our economy is in crisis, it's in dire strait, what we call. Look at the inflation, the highest in 11 years, over 22%. And when we even take the index of food, you know, inflation, it's far more than that. Do you understand? So at this moment, we cannot afford to open up to, you know, let attacks and military intervention, you know, snowball into casualties in the Nigerian states. And then, I mean, with Mali and what Burkina Faso in support, and then, you know, surreptitiously, what you are seeing is that playing out also that Russia, they are looking at, you know, at Russia, because you saw the mammoth crowd that came up to support the military coup. That's by the people of Niger. You thought that they were angry with what? The French government, and then they started hoisting, I mean, burning down the flags of France and hoisting the flag of Russia. So, it's a delicate situation. It's a dicey situation. I, as a concerned, you know, human being, an analyst and all the rest, I will canvass that. Let's, you know, give more time, for instance, for dialogue. And although I think the ECOWAS, I mean, the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has sent some delegation. People have gone there, and as we have seen, but what has happened is that the coupies, the pushes, they said no, they are not backing.
Okay,
so it's a serious
on the
matter.
mention of Nigerians being in support of the coup, being happy and coming out to support. So can we look at the, as you mentioned, issues in the country of poor governance? Now, West Africa has a history of poor governance, so to say.
Exactly.
We have history of coups. We have history of even democratically elected presidents staying in office for extending their stay in office unconstitutionally.
We've
so
had that.
Is there now a justification for wanting to have democracy stay in West Africa when it obviously seems that even the democratically elected leaders are not obeying the constitution?
Thank you so much for this question. It's a very important question. But let me say this. It seems as if countries that have adopted democracy, refuse to understand the basic or the fundamental issues. I mean, it started all how many years ago in ancient Greece. The people were fed up with autocracy, and they said, the elders came together and said, we are no more interested in their, when you having one family ruling or just the ruling class and all the rest, that things were not going well for them. And then as they sat down, they discussed that, well, so number of groups will take care of the economy, take care of security, take care of education and health and all the rest. And it started like pro-people policies. But now, over the years, I think I'm somebody who has raised alarm severally through my writings or coming on air like this, that the structure is dysfunctional, it's anti-people. The structure of the type and manner of democracy that we practice here in Nigeria and some West African countries, they are not favoring the people. I mean, let's look at Nigeria, for instance. We borrowed this democracy from where? The US. You ask yourself, is this how democracy is practiced in the US? Do the state governors go cap in hand, every month to Washington, D.C. to ask for a federation account? I mean, their share of the federation account? It doesn't happen like that. I mean, the law they have, different states have their different laws. For instance, some will say, let's execute criminals. Others will say, no, we don't have that. And that's why I'm somebody who has been a consistent advocate of political restructuring of this country. My fear about Nigeria is that, one, we love deceit. There is so much self-deceit. And many Nigerians, I'm sorry to say, they love to be deceived. Yes, we hate the truth. Truth is bitter. Truth is eternal. Truth is timeless. But, because of selfish aggrandizement and all the rest, the type of democracy we are practicing now, the structure, I've always talked about it, that structure must be we have to restructure, we have to retool it. For instance, there's another topic we are going to look at, which has to do with the government. When we come to that, I will explain in details again what really happened. But what is playing out is this. Was there good governance, pro-people policies taking place in France? The people woke up and said, we are fed up. I hope you understand. The former or the president that they've taken in detention now, for instance, he is from a minority group there, but they saw him like a toy in the hands of the French government, that whatever the French people wanted, that was what he was doing, playing to. So we want a situation whereby African leaders, West African leaders, as the situation as it is now, should allow for the institution, for the establishment, the sustenance of policies that are pro-people, policies that will be, try as much as possible to reduce what they call the poverty level. For instance, the Oxford firm that has always been reeling out, figures, fanciful figures, some of them frightening figures, about the poverty index, what we call the Human Development Index. That is, the average Nigerian, has he access to safe food, food that is nutritious? Has he access to, healthcare delivery that is affordable? Has he access to quality education delivery? These are the issues that, have always been at the front burner. And we know, of course, see the gap between the rich and the poor. I mean, that Oxfam raised alarm, some 4 years back, that Nigeria cannot sustain, the poverty level here. That is one that we should really look at. For instance, and then the World Bank last year said, what? In 2022, that 12% of the extremely poor people in the whole world live here in Nigeria. So what we are deceiving ourselves.
With all of this now, can we say the coup is justified? Do we say it is justified?
Well, let me say this. We don't want coup. We don't want military intervention, ordinarily. So it's a challenge to the political leaders, one, to key into a former President Yar'Adua, I'm sorry, may he so rest in perfect peace. He was an advocate of servant leadership. But what we see today is selfishness, greed. I am, and whatever I say, let it be by force. We have crooks and criminals that, have taken over governance in several countries, and what they do is to satisfy themselves. I've seen some clips from other West African countries satisfying themselves against, what should really happen.
And
that
they even make it family business.
Exactly.
So when a father leaves, the child
takes over,
and then
that takes us back to ancient Greece. So what happened in ancient Greece is, that led to that, more or less, the coming up of the people and saying that we don't want autocracy again anymore. That's exactly what we are seeing playing itself out now. And the leaders must be very, very careful. Perhaps when we start looking at the cost of governance in Nigeria, there are other issues that I will bring forth.
Looking at Nigeria now, Nigeria is still battling insecurity, insurgency, and the likes. Yeah. The troops, in different cases, many governors of the northeast, eastern part of the nation, especially governor of Borno State, he had called severally for more reinforcement of troops. Yeah. Now, we have our internal issue we are dealing with, not solved yet. Yeah. And the Boko Haram insurgency, everything still has a link to these other nations. Exactly. Now, the first question is: Are we really ready to withdraw our own troops and send them? Do we have that capacity? And secondly, if we do that in military intervention, are we also ready for the influx of IDPs into Nigeria? Exactly.
So, I think the situation is crystal clear. When you look at it, the northern states, since 2009, this issue of insecurity has escalated. Of course, the Boko Haram insurgency has been there and has been rearing its ugly head. But there is an issue that we must not forget. Late General Sani Abacha said that if there is any insurgency, if there is any type of, non-state actors causing chaos and anarchy, and it lasts for 48 hours, that the people in government must be questioned. So, and we've seen this over the years. Billions of naira that, were meant for arms and ammunition, where did they go to? Private pockets, in most instances. So, it's it's a situation whereby I think, are we ready to send our troops and all the rest? I listened carefully early this morning to the coming together of the heads of military, forces from the West African sub-region. They met on this issue. Well, they too were more or less asking that, they are ready to go into that, but it should be the last resort. it should be as if there is no more, alternative. Then you consider that because of the, implications. There are people that are living now, and then what will happen? All of a sudden, these attacks. They may even attack Lagos here. They may attack Abuja there. You don't know the types of, military formation and those that are, covertly supporting those that will be selling and be giving them arms and ammunition, costly ones, expensive ones. So exactly that is what is playing out now. So I will come back to that same issue again and said, well, it's not good to have a military coup, but what should we do? Ensure that we have what? Democratic principles playing out, people policies coming out, and then of course when we look at the other issue, there are things that will bring out that the fundamental flaws, the mistakes that have been made in the past 2 months.
And finally, so we move on to the other topics of the day.
Yeah.
What do you think Nigeria should do? Yeah. Maybe just to guard itself or prepare in case anything just goes haywire over there.
Okay. Thank you very much. We've had a long-lasting relationship with the Republic of Niger. And for instance, we all know that former President Mohamed Buhari, he even said he was, after his tenure that he was going to that same...
If Daura is not
okay.
for him to
we know that, we've had issues of supplying them with crude oil, rail lines being extended to that. So it's a delicate situation. And one, in a situation like this, the leaders have to be proactive. They have to look ahead and say, okay, this issue is about to take place. Because, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is acting in two capacities now. As our own president and then the chairman of ECOWAS. So, but can we separate the two as the situation is now? First and foremost, therefore, we must ensure that the northern states, that, that man reeled out, the senator reeled out, is it, what do you call it, Katsina, Jigawa, Yobe, Borno, and all the rest. They will be the first line in terms of attack. So, military intervention in terms of reinforcing the number, and then of course the supply of arms and ammunition to our own soldiers, so that those places will be highly protected from foreign attack. I think that should be the first thing. While we are thinking of supporting the ECOWAS if the military intervention becomes inevitable. So that's exactly how that one is.